For the longest time, ever since I first started browsing the internet really, I noticed this group of people who went by the term furries. Basically, from what I saw, they were people who like to share pictures of, show their love towards, and even dress up as anthropomorphic animals. It wasn't even just that made me confused. It was the intense fanaticism towards them. It was this love for it. These furries treated their passion for cartoon animal people like a lifestyle, apparently living, eating, speaking, and breathing furry. For years, I witnessed pictures ranging from cute and childlike to excessively and uncomfortably lewd, as well as videos of conventions where people reportedly spent hundreds of hours and dollars making their own fursuits. That's what they call these. And a lot of other stuff that you might consider. And I agree, some of it does cause me to bend my head and body in fear or in a serval manner / experience an inward shiver of embarrassment or disgust. But beyond all that, another thought would always come to mind. Every time I saw a furry and the content they produced, whether good or bad, I saw a fondness, a proclivity so palpable. The thought would always come to mind that I've probably never loved or been loved by anything as much as furries love furries. I didn't get it, and instead of just sitting around and hating it because I didn't get it, I decided that I wanted to get it. I wanted to hear directly from the furry community, so I first went into the few larger Discord servers I'm in and shared a forum asking a few questions about a potential furry's experience in the fandom, as well as some questions that might get them to reflect a bit about themselves in comparison with society as a whole. Specifically an open-ended question asking if the responder considers themselves a degenerate. I didn't specify the meaning of the word, nor did I specify what kind of degenerate I was referring to, so that the responder could come to their own conclusions about what the word means to them and whether they fall under its definition. Early on, however, I fell into a few snags. For one thing, I'm not in very many Discord servers, and the ones I am in don't have very many furries in them. In fact, a few times I was met with a rather negative response of people showing disdain towards furries. One time in particular was when I asked if any furries were in the server, and a mod actually spoke up and said that only people with rights are allowed into their server. So I decided to head to a few different forums, namely Reddit's r/furry and trash. I probably got only a couple replies from both places in total. After that, I went and searched for a few furry servers from Discord, told people that I wasn't a furry, and I just wanted to ask them some questions about the furry experience, and then I got banned. A furry I share a server with decided to invite me to their server, in which I shared my forum, after which I was banned again. It seems like this kept happening for at least 3 major reasons. 1. I'm not a furry. Anyone's probably going to be less likely to welcome or listen to someone who's not part of their community when they just barge into a place that's specifically designated to be where members of the community are meant to gather. 2. The forum asks about sexuality and fetishes. Apparently, many of the furry discords I joined actually had a pretty strict rule against not safe for work content. This was at first a little weird for me to find out, since I thought furries were more outward about their sexuality than what you could describe as the general population. 3. The degeneracy question. Degenerate is a word used as an insult quite a bit on the internet. It's possible, even probable, that lots of furries have been the target of this insult for years, and maybe seeing this word again in my forum led the mods and members of the servers to believe that the forum was some kind of ploy for bullying or trolling. Blue Dragon, the furry who invited me to the furry server they frequented, talked with a mod about the forum I sent and why they banned me. The mod said they'd allow me back and they'd let me post the forum if I took out the questions involving not safe for work topics. I told Blue Dragon to tell them I didn't want to, since I did see the question as interesting and I wanted to know how many furries participated in the sexual aspects of the fandom. The mod wanted to explain to me that the furry community, or at least the one that gathers at that particular server, is not degenerate. According to them, many of the furries in that server were just teens who wanted to escape their lives. That actually seems to correlate with my data, as 10 of the 28 anonymous furries who filled out my form were born in 2001 or sooner. 12 of them became furries by ages 11 to 15, and 10 of them became furries by ages 16 to 20. The mod also said many of the kids in the server don't have fursuits or go to cons, which correlates to the fact that 20 of the 28 furries admitted to having never been to a con. Speaking of the forum, why don't we just go over more of the statistics from the few answers I got. Initially, I was hoping to get 50 to 100 answers, but that was definitely too optimistic in retrospect. Like I said, I got 28 answers, which I don't think is enough to make a good conclusion about the grander scale of the fandom. For instance, the server I share with Blue Dragon is populated largely by kids from the same high school, because apparently there's a whole extended social circle that stems out from those weirdos who hang out in that corner of the school in the mornings. That could be why there were so many young users who answered the poll. Like I said earlier, the server Blue Dragon frequented is largely populated by kids as well, so I'm not certain if this means that many furries are kids, or that a lot of furries I happen to come across were kids. Regardless, 16 of the people said they were born between 1991 and 2000, and 10 of them were born in 2001 or sooner. And only 2 others stated to be born from other ranges, one of which was likely a troll answer. 21 of the answers stated to be from North America, 4 stated to be from Europe, and 3 different users stated to be from Russia, Jamaica, and South America respectively. On the question asking whether the user had ever created or considered creating a fursona, 16 of them said no and 12 of them said yes. I found this kind of interesting because I thought having a fursona was just kind of what you did to get in the fandom in the first place. I also asked if any users had any fictional crushes as kids. I figured that it was possible that the cartoons, video games, and other media furries might have consumed as kids, and the characters they liked might have influenced their realization or decision that they were a furry. 14 said no, while those who said yes were allowed to type in the name of their character. Out of the other 14 that had crushes, 8 of the characters mentioned either were or resembled anthropomorphic animals. There were characters on the list that I expected to be there, such as Sally Acorn and Rouge the Bat, both of whom I see constant horny posts about whenever conversation about them is brought up. There was also Lady Marian from Disney's Robin Hood, Merville Million from Solatorobo, never heard of it, Arukinimon from Digimon, Gardevoir the Pokemon, and Cinnamon, this cute thing. The fact that someone had a crush on this kinda disturbs me, like a lot, not gonna lie. There was also BoJack Horseman, which kinda confuses me because the question was about childhood crushes, and BoJack is a relatively new series for adults. So did they watch BoJack as a kid, which they'd presumably still be? There were also characters who were arguably not furry, like the Yo Gabba Gabba people. Yes, someone had a crush on the, and I quote, Yo Gabba Gabba people. And yes, in case you were wondering, this was the same person who also claimed to have a crush on BoJack Horseman. And yes, this person also claims to be born in 2001 or sooner. There was also Kovu from Lion King, which is a little worrying because he's an actual animal. Here's all the answers in case you were wondering. The next question asked if the user had ever involved themselves in the sexual aspect of the furry community, including consuming pornographic furry content, erotic role-playing with other furries online or in real life, having sex with furries, or discussing furry-related fetishes with others. Out of the 28 furries who filled out the form, 24 said yes. Now, the last 2 questions were, in my opinion, the most interesting and potentially insightful about how different furries view themselves. The second to last question asked if the user considered themselves to be a degenerate. 15 said yes, 8 said no, and 5 said maybe. In the last question, I asked to explain their reasoning. I got some very interesting answers from different perspectives, which I'll simply be showing on screen because it'd take too long to read them all, but they all are very fascinating takes. Feel free to pause the video so you can be sure to read the longer answers. A blue dragon also offered a potential reason why a furry might see themselves as a degenerate. They figure that some furries might be influenced by the majority, the people outside of the community looking in, combined with a furry's self-acceptance of being a furry. Again, you can go ahead and pause to read the full quote. Honestly, this all really fascinated me. All this made me realize that the furry community may be extremely multifaceted and complex, and I think the only way to truly dive into the fandom is to join them. So I decided it was time to go undercover. I needed to make sure I could fit in, so the first thing I knew I had to do was form a persona. To do that, I had to create a fursona. With the help of a friend on Discord, I got this. Say hello to my new monkey fursona, Marcellius Thunder. You can get art of pretty much any kind commissioned just for you by contacting @CreateTy on Twitter. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have gotten to do my investigation and not get caught or banned if I hadn't been given a unique commissioned profile picture, because some servers get suspicious when you don't have one, and if they see you with a non-furry anime PFP or a picture that you can easily find on Google Images, they might already be itching to grab the ban hammer. So I kinda needed a custom profile picture for the extra authenticity. So once again, big thanks to CreateTy. Go follow her on Twitter from the link in the description and consider getting yourself a commission. She does a wide array of things, not just furry content. So, once I had my profile picture and a name change, I was all set for the infiltration. All I had to do now was head over to Discord and some sites where I knew furry content existed, and look around for some Discord links. Now, who wants to take a wild guess at what the first thing I saw was in the first server I joined? Was it A, an open arms welcome and wholesome support from several members? B, a cub content channel. Cub content is basically lollies and shotas but for furries. Lollies and shotas is basically pedophilia for weebs. Or C, come on a gun. Now, I'll give you about 5 seconds to really think about your answer. It might not be the one you're thinking of. The answer was A. I've honestly never been welcomed so warmly before, especially not on a large Discord server. It actually felt kinda nice. I was gonna mention the name of this server, but I think I'll just let it be known as Server A because I actually respect the inhabitants and I want to do what I can to maintain this safe haven they've created for themselves. It was actually a really chill place, and not really at all. It was honestly a bit weird to stick around in a place where people of this niche are supposed to gather when I don't share this niche. One thing I did find a little bit was the fact that they seemed so apprehensive about not safe for work content. I have nothing against servers that have a rule against porn and stuff, but I find it strange when people get all uppity at the very mention of the 4 letters NSFW. But overall, it was really chill, and I honestly kinda wish more Discord servers were at least a little bit more like this. Another server worth noting is one I'll just call Server B. This one did allow not safe for work content. And oh boy, this server was a whole nother... Alright, why don't we play another guessing game where you can just guess the types of things that I saw over the course of my operation. So, which of these things was in the not safe for work server? A porn comic of a man having sex with a snake. B, the gay YIF channel being the most used channel in the entire server. Or C, come on a gun. If your answer was all of the above, then you are correct. There was a lot going on in this server. It was quite chaotic. One thing I noticed is that no one seemed to want to have an actual conversation, and everywhere except the porn channels, which were being spammed with porn, go figure, just had everyone speaking in that fucking annoying, dumbass, ironic meme speak that annoys me to no end. Like, actually fucking talk. Jesus fucking Christ. Let's talk about racism. I was discriminated against immensely in all the furry Discord servers I joined. This was problematic, and I think the furry community needs to re-evaluate some things. Hashtag monkey lives matter. But in all seriousness, it may have been a bad idea for me to have a monkey fursona because I didn't realize it at the time, but not very many furries do monkey fursonas. On a server where you pick your roles based on the animal your fursona is, they have several options, but none of them are monkey. So it probably would have been easier to blend in if I were a cat, or a dog, or a fox, but honestly, I used a monkey because they're cool and I think it suits me the best, which is what fursonas are all about, right? At least that's kind of what people were saying when I asked people what their fursonas were and why they picked them. Well, whatever the case, I stood out slightly. If this raised any suspicion, no one did anything about it. So I went and asked some basic questions under the pretense of being new to the fandom. As it turns out, from the people I asked in Server A, their answers correlated to the answers in the forum. As for Server B, well, I'm not sure what I was expecting. I also asked what got people into the furry fandom, and some just said they liked the art, while others said they were inspired by shows and stuff they watched as a kid, which I also figured was the case. I also wanted to ask about the differences between the safe for work and not safe for work channels, but people got kinda uppity about it, so I took it to DMs with a certain furry, and he agreed. The not safe for work servers do tend to have more cumbrains whose ability to communicate in ways other than spamming pornography of dogmen having sex with each other have phased out of existence. And you know what he also agreed to? An interview.
Well, there is no definitive definition of a furry. That's the biggest misconception I think that people have. And, you know, there's like layers. It's like autism. It's on a spectrum.
So how did you get into the furry community?
Well, I had just moved from Colorado to Massachusetts, and there was literally nobody at my school who would talk to me because I was the weird, awkward redneck kid.
I see.
And it was just about the time that the internet was starting to take off, so I ended up getting online, writing with a couple of people, and just kind of getting into it.
I plan to put the full, nearly 20-minute version up on the same day this video goes up. So once you get to this point in the video, which, hey, you just got to, go ahead and go to the other video and come back when you're done. In conclusion, furries are actually a pretty big, diverse group, and there's a lot of different types of furries, and many will act differently from each other. At the end of the day, my take is that we should just chill the fuck out and let them live their lives, because no matter how many instances there are of furries making people wince, flinch, shudder, blinch, or blanch, they're not hurting anyone. They just happen to like this thing or these things that you may not like or understand. And it's okay to not like or understand, but it's not okay to hate. Alright, enough of that preachy shit. Go ahead and go to the Discord server in the description to see the cum on the gun.